Last time, I must remind you though, but the last time I gave a speech, it was at dedication of our Angel Monument at John Baylor Park by the pond. And that was September 9th, 2012. No, 2001. Yeah, 2001. And shortly after that, it was 9/11. So I'm wondering what's going to happen after this speech. Maybe a terrorist will blow up Mountain ice cream. That would be tragic. Even more tragic, maybe the wrong duck will get elected president and be bye-bye American Pie. So yes, it's been a long time coming. It took us 4 years to get from the purchase of this property to the point where we could actually finish the construction. And along the way, we had a lot of delays, extra expenses, extra little projects added, a lot of meetings to go to, and a lot of red tape to go through and permits. But we finally made it, and I think it's worth it, isn't it? Yeah. I want to mention, give a special accolade to our project manager for this undertaking, and it has been an undertaking, Marty Klein. Thanks, Marty. I'm sure he's drew a few more wrinkles on his eyebrows here doing this, and although I didn't learn any new cuss words from him, I sure got a good refresher course. I don't envy Marty's job on this one. It was a tough one, but he did a wonderful job. He kept everything going. So what I want to do here today is give a little background, some background on the trust itself, and also the farm, the CSA farm over here, and Brickyard Brook Proper Trails, and last but not least, this Mutter Field project. So, trust was formed in 1982 by a bunch of wild tree-hugging hippies, two of which are still here. Michael Tausnick, where's Mike? He's been instrumental in forming the trust, and if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be here today. And I want to also mention a longtime board member, Bill Burgart, because he's one of the founders too, and he's still with us. Where's Bill? Well, lay him back in the background. He's hiding. Well, he takes a licking, but he keeps on ticking. Yeah. So the trust bought our first property in 1983 or 1984. 83. And that was Old Pascommuck Conservation Area down the line here on East Street. And I had volunteered for some time in helping build, put up the trail and parking lot area. And about 1985, I was sort of coerced by Mike and friends to join the trust. So I've been here since 1985. A long time. The trust owns 14 parcels with about 178.5 acres, and we hope to save hundreds more, especially in the Park Hill Orchard area, over 400 acres just right there. And Echo Dale Farm, that was a big one, really big one, and it's a beautiful place. We're also active in conservation education. At one time we had pond tours, and Michael would borrow a pontoon boat. We'd take tours during the fall festival, and that was great. And at that time, the pond was going downhill. It was sinking, it was filling in with sediment and everything and weeds, and we wanted to make aware to people that the pond was in a bad condition and it needed cleaning up, and it finally did get cleaned up. And we've done bus tours for people, for fourth and third graders. Take them down to the pond, National Pond, where they did studies. And we have our annual meeting in February. It's well attended usually, and we have good speakers, and we give an overview of what we have done in the past year and what we plan to do in the next year. So do try to make that meeting. It's a good one. And we have 2 plant sales a year, one in the spring and one in the fall over the Big E parking lot. And other presentations to schools once in a while and other activities. So we're pretty busy. Now I want to give you a little bit of background on the history of the farm, the CSA farm over here, Mountain View, coupled with the Brickyard Brook area, all the trail system there. Way back, a few years ago anyway, quite a few years ago, a local developer was going to try to put a housing project in where farms were. These farms were made up of like 4 families: Tom Zeski, Morgan, Becker, and Torrey. And Tom Zeski, my uncle Alphonse Tom Zeski, owned a farm down over on the other end of East Street, and I used to remember working, picking beans and tobacco the summers on his farm. But anyway, it comes out that the town had what they call a right of first purchase. So the town itself didn't want to or couldn't get this buy this farm, so they were looking for somebody to take it over the process, and so we volunteered, and we got neighbors and our board members together, and we signed a petition to save this property, and we somehow raised some money, started raising money, and we got a lot of help from the trustees of reservations. So in the end, we finally got the property in one, let's see, I think it was September 2nd, 1998. And then, okay, so the farm itself was sold to 2 ladies, Eileen Drescher and Antonia Atmore. And in total, in the end, 17.6 acres, just as the farmland. And they named it Old Turtle Farm. And later, they sold it to another couple, Ben Perot and Liz Adler, and they renamed it Mountain View Farm CSA. And I've been a member of that farm ever since its beginning. Every week I go over there and pick up my veggies. So the surrounding woodlands, which amounted to about 9.22 acres, the trust took over. And later we added 1.7 acres donated by board member and neighbor Sue Walls. Sue, where are you? Way in back, hiding as usual. Okay. So, when we got the trails, they were a mess. Let me tell you. The kids, neighborhood kids had taken it over. And they had a big bike run there, mountain bikes. They had all kinds of events. And it was well known, even in Europe. And this was some big thing. I'm not kidding. And they had some trenches and mounds, and jumping over them and everything, all kinds of contests. They had furniture all over the place. Tree stands for observation, and they were taking videos. It was a mess. It took 2 weekends with a bobcat to straighten out the trails, plus many more days of hauling out trash. And in the end, it was worth it, though. Although the kids didn't have a place to play, I can relate to that because when I was a kid, all the woods around my area and all the fields were eaten up by housing projects, so I can relate to that. But I think it benefited many more people than just bikers. So I think it was a good trade-off. Well, we were actually we did some trail work, but it wasn't quite enough. So in the end, we ended up calling up the AmeriCorps volunteers, and for 2 weeks they camped out in back of Bill Burgout's house off East Street, and they made trails. They put more bridges and footbridges in and steps, and they really did a good job. Although there were some mishaps. At least one of the volunteers had to go to the hospital. They struck a bee's nest in I call the jungle trail, which was just solid mats of vines and briar. So other than that, it worked out. And here we are. We have a big property here. Now we come to Mutter Field, the last place we were talking about here. And this is a great place. It was formerly owned by Alice and Jim Mutter, who live on the house at the end there. And Alice Mutter is here today, I understand. Yeah. Guess what? I think she's about 100 years old. Yeah, right? Congratulations. Actually, my parents knew Alice and Jim way back, and they socialized with them occasionally. So that's how I got to know them. And Jim Mutter had a horse, and he had a shed over on by the cemetery here, and actually had a carriage shed right in this corner. And when we were kids, we used to sneak in there and jump on the carriage and make off. We were riding the horse and buggy. Now it comes out. Them bad beta boys. But now, how did we get to this point? How did we actually purchase this property? Well, that's the rest of the story here. It all started from a dream. You know, Martin Luther King had a big dream, and it was a beautiful dream. But we also had a dream, not so big, but just as beautiful. And when we put in a spur trail coming up to this outlook over here, and I was over there, anytime I was over there and I looked over toward this beautiful, tranquil, peaceful meadow filled with wildflowers, I said, damn, we have to get this for the trust. So Garrett Stover, our open space consultant, who's pulled off a lot of screwy deals for us, unbelievable. We got together, and Garrett, of course, did most of the work, but we negotiated with Alice Mutter, and we negotiated with her daughter, Mary Ann, and her husband, Robert Donay. By the way, they originally were thinking about putting a couple houses in here, either for the family or selling it outright. So we didn't want that to happen. I'm glad it didn't. And so we finally, it took us a few months or even a few years, I don't remember, but it was a long time. But we finally got them to sign an agreement with us, and it was on August 29th, 2012. And the purchase also included a $25,000 CPA grant. And I'll tell you one thing. CPA, it's the best thing to happen to a town. I mean, some towns still are opposing it, but I'll tell you, CPA enables a town to really do things that they normally couldn't do. And same in this town. They've done a lot of good. All I want to do is list some of the many projects that were involved in this whole Mutter Field complex. And of course, the first one was getting East Green Street entrance cleaned up and opened up better. And we had problems with a culvert over on that old farm road, and we had to repair that. It was a major project, well over $33,000 worth of work in that, just on that end. Right, Marty? That's right. And after we got that done, major parking lot on East Street went in with the kiosk and the water garden there, and the drainage and the landscaping. And of course, we put in a little jutting trail right there so the wheelchairs can get right up to the edge of the embankment there and overlook the nice little stream going through the valley there. And we've got a cable up so they won't go down the hill. And over here we got the rain shelter and picnic tables and benches, and 2 stone structures are going to be butterfly gardens. put in by the Vera brothers from Ashfield, who are the Michelangelos of stonework in the area, so to speak. And it's all Goshen stone, and we're going to plant the butterfly-loving plants either this fall. Huh?
That milkweed, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We did milkweeds are growing naturally here, but we're going to have other things going into the containers. And Leslie Harrington, Dr. Leslie Harrington is taking care of that project. And signage. Garrett Stover, especially Garrett Stover, is responsible for most of the signage here, and we're also going to have a interpretive signage system here where we talk about the ecology, the geology, and the plant life and the animal life in the area. It's going to be great. Some stats on this area. The Brook Trails itself is about 3/4 mile long. This accessible trail is 1/3 of a mile long. And a total acreage saved, including the Mountain View Farm, is 34.46 acres. Not bad for a little trust. Marty's going to take care of most of the accolades for the people who had a great deal in this project and helped a lot. I would just like to thank the board members of the trust for their cooperation and the committee for the ribbon cutting ceremony. Michael Karen, Diane McLean, and Eve Endicott. Guys, stand up. They seem to be hiding from it today. And that's all I have to say. And Marty's going to come up here, and Mayor's going to speak today, and maybe one or two other people. So thanks for all for putting up with my long speech. Oh yeah, okay.
Thanks everybody for coming to this, as I like to call it, a place in nature for everyone. I know it's cliched, but build it and they will come. And the people have been coming here since November. I have a few acknowledgments and thank yous, and if I repeat a couple of people that John mentioned, just consider me part of the redundancy department of departments or something. Anyway, it's been my privilege for the last 3 years to lead this project and to represent Pascommuck Conservation Trust. So I'm grateful to the Pascommuck Board of Directors for putting their trust in me and enabling me to use the toolbox of skills that I've developed in my lifetime to make this project happen. And I'd like to just single out a few people on the board who were particularly involved in it. Of course, John Bader, who is just, John's amazing. He's tireless, and he has done so much work here and continues to do so much of our maintenance work and puts all us young people to shame. Our treasurer, Brian Dillon, an East Hampton resident and CPA who's been really helpful in helping us keep the money together and the numbers together, which has been really important. Our former vice president and neighbor, Sue Walsh, who's just been coming to the trail and reporting on progress and issues and just doing a real variety of things for us. Tom Lotzenheiser, who's ecologist at Mass Audubon and who has helped us with the wording of the signs that we're going to be having, the interpretive signs. Tom's also helped with his ecological expertise and advice. Eve Endicott, who is one of our newest board members, who helped out with the Fields Pond grant that we wrote and other things. And I want to particularly mention our superstar volunteer, Garrett Stover, who's probably hiding in the bushes somewhere because he's known for his modesty. See, I knew it. Garrett, map maker, sign maker, conservation guru, and man of many talents. Thank you so much, Garrett. East Hampton landscape architect Bill Cannon, who designed the trail and has been in there since the beginning. Bill has donated a lot of his hours to the project as well, and without Bill's expertise, this never would have happened. Thank you, Bill. Engineer Mark Reed from Heritage Surveys, who had to do the reports and make sure that the Conservation Commission was up on what we were doing and making sure we were doing everything right. Pioneer Landscaping, who made this trail for us. Neighbor Michael King, who gave us an easement for the East Green Street entrance. Another neighbor, Seth Menkel, the neighbor who, on this side, who let us use his driveway to allow construction vehicles and mowing to take place. Also, Gary Golis, the neighbor on this side at East Street, who gave us an easement as well, and who has done a little bit of maintenance for us already. And really, let's see, former owners, which John already mentioned, Alice Mutter, Bob, and Mary Ann Donay. And really importantly, Mayor Karen Cadue and the City of East Hampton for enabling us to once again be part of all the great things that this city has accomplished over the past however many years. Mutter's Field is one more reason why East Hampton is one of the best small cities anywhere. I also need to thank the East Hampton Community Preservation Act Committee for their tremendous support in giving us the money that we needed to build this project. The East Hampton Conservation Commission for making sure that we did things right. And the East Hampton City Council, who also supported us and approved what we were doing here. I want to thank the Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation, who gave us the first grant that we got, which enabled us to do the culvert work, which was phase 1 of the project. I want to thank the Stavros Center for Independent Living, who last week awarded the trust the 2016 Paul Winsky Access Award for going the extra mile in offering access to people with disabilities. Andy Bristol is here, who is Stavros' accessibility coordinator. I don't see him right now, but Andy is here. And Andy came to the trail a couple of times and really gave us some great advice on signage and just his thoughts about, are we doing this right? So thanks so much, Andy. East Hampton's Riverside Industries, and Shar is here, and Shar will say a few words after I'm done. The United States Fish and Wildlife Service, who built a beautiful accessible trail in Hadley, the Fort River Trail, which was actually the model for the design of this trail. They had to build their trail on the surface of the ground, and so did we, because of some concerns by the Mass Historic Commission about possible archaeological whatever's here. I don't think that that there were any, but that's what they said we had to do. And just everyone else has had to put up with me for the last 3 years. For the past 34 years, Pascommuck Conservation Trust has been protecting important open space and farmland, creating trails and parks in East Hampton for the benefit of all people. Well, not quite. Primarily because we never had a property with suitable topography that would be practical for a trail that everyone could use. That is, until we acquired this property. When Garrett Stover and I were writing the first grant we received from Mass Department of Conservation and Recreation, I began to get a sense of the magnitude of what we were getting into with this project, and part of me secretly hoped that we wouldn't get that grant, because once we did, there would be no turning back. Well, guess what? The project goals that I had in mind as I oversaw this project included, I wanted us to meet or exceed the current standards for accessible trails so that whomever visits, regardless of their abilities, can enjoy this beautiful place safely and comfortably. To create a place that the community at large would come to embrace, support, and hopefully participate in the care and maintenance of this property over time. And to use local people and businesses as much as possible for the work here. There was a lot of pressure to hire Chinese contractors, but I said, no way. John already mentioned a couple of the plans that we have for the future of the trail here. In the next couple of weeks, these stone raised beds, which are not ancient ruins, will be filled with soil and planted with native flowering plants donated by Pascommuck supporter and horticulturist Dr. Leslie Harrington on Clark Street. I wanted to add these beds here because I want people who use the trail to experience nature, and these will attract pollinators and also will give an idea of some of the plants that we might see flowering in this area. Later this fall, we'll be installing 5 colorful interpretive signs around the property to educate visitors about some aspects of nature that can be seen here, including Mount Tom, bluebirds. We put up bluebird boxes in the meadow here. Let's see, pollinators, invasive plants, and our rain garden at the other end of the trail. Over the next few years, we will be rehabilitating this meadow that you see here. And the reason we're going to do that is because it's really overtaken with invasive plants that are crowded out the native plants that really belong here. So we're going to be working over that, and there might be a period where it looks pretty terrible, but we're going to bring it back. Last future plan, we'll continue to reach out to the community to spread the word. We want to lead tours here so that as many people as possible are aware of this wonderful People's Park. And I hope that you all will spread the word and let us know about this place. And last but not least, we have an ongoing fund drive to raise money for a fund to pay for maintenance and stewardship of this property into the future. Please consider donating to help us out to keep Muttersfield beautiful. And Pascommuck is always seeking volunteers to help us with the work that we do, and we have a lot of different ways that you can help us out. Please speak to our board member, Molly Goodwin, who is our volunteer coordinator, to learn more. And thank you for your continuing support, and come back and enjoy the trail. This is a great place, as you can see, and thank you so much for coming today. And I'd like to invite John Gendes, who is president of Riverside Industries, to just come up and say a word or two.
So it's a real honor to be here today. Back probably 18 months ago, I think it was, Marty came to my office in probably 2 years. Probably 2.5 years ago, actually, came to my office to share with me the vision that the Trust had. And I was just so heartwarmed to hear the project. This is such a valuable project because it includes everyone. Riverside's mission is to empower people with developmental disabilities to live a rich and full life. And we all know that being in nature is rich. It's a rich experience to sit here, to listen to the birds, to be with the flowers. I sat here one day and a deer came by. I was like, oh my God, it's such a beautiful place. And people with disabilities need accessibility. And it's not just people who utilize wheelchairs or canes or walkers. It was me when my sciatic nerve was bothering me and I could walk here because it's level and it's soft. It might be the person who's recovering from a hip replacement. So this field is going to be available for this community. I just want to acknowledge and again thank the Trust for its vision, for its value to include everyone, to the mayors who had the foresight and the continued support. I just can't stress enough how many people at Riverside are using this, love it, feel blessed to have it, and because of that and because of the continued efforts, Riverside will be making a $500 contribution for the next 5 years. That is our pledge to the Mutter Field to help maintain it, and because we know we will be using it a lot. So thank you very much for this wonderful community's vision and support of this project. Thank you.
And now, I'd like to invite our mayor, Karen Cadue, to come up. She has a big pair of scissors somewhere, I think. So please welcome our mayor.
So welcome everybody for being here. And as John and Marty did all the history and the accolades, but I just have to say without a doubt, you've heard how many people were involved in this and how many volunteers. So you can just imagine how many hours of work this took. And these are people that are not in it for the accolades. You have people like Garrett, by the way, that you probably met because he was helping park the vehicles out there. So these are all undercover. Sue, Marty, John, so many people. Kevin, the gorgeous picnic tables. But you know, Bill, your design. But there's just so many people involved, and I hope everybody, you must be very, very, very proud. But without a doubt, this is Mutter. There's no way you're 100. You are the talk of the place today. So, you know, Marty, when you said it, you know, nature for everyone, that has stuck in everybody's mind, because this is what this is. And you know, a friend of mine this week was here with her, you know, with her wheelchair, and you had talked earlier about the young man that came from, you know, from far away just to be at an accessible field. You have the wheelchair accessible parking lot, you know, over on East Street. But this is for everybody. Like Shar said, whether you're just rehabbing or whether you're just walking with a stroller or just like me looking for a really nice place to sit and quiet and enjoy the nature. I can't wait for the butterflies. So, and John, I have to tell you, you did a fantastic job the other night at the city council meeting at our public hearing for the CPA funds. And this is CPA funds at their best. And I agree, we have done an amazing job with the use of our CPA funds. But John told the story. It's not too often that we laugh at our city council meetings. We had a story about foxes and deer, and everybody really enjoyed it. But from the bottom of my heart, I cannot express the thanks that all of us have for what you have done. And this will be enjoyment for everyone for many, many years. So it's my pleasure to be here and cut the ribbon. Okay, are you ready? 1, 2, 3.
Yay!